Hi, welcome again to Club of Coders. In this tutorial, we are going to learn Next.js 13 version. That version is being requested a lot of time and I'm very excited to show you how we can use this new app structure, this new app folder and this new version to leverage building web apps faster. At Club of Coders, I always believe in building projects. If you want to learn something, build project. That's why Next.js 13 version, we will going to learn it by building simple to-do app. Then after we have learned how to build a to-do app, then we can build anything out of it. That's why this tutorial is going to be building a to-do list app using Next.js 13 version. For the database part, we are going to use Prisma, and for other than that, React server components. That means Next.js app directory will handle all the server thing. I haven't prepared anything before recording this tutorial because I want to show you my process of learning everything. I will show you how I approach things, how I approach a new tech stack which I don't know to learn things. That's why we are building a to-do application, number one thing. Number second, we are going to take a lot of help from documentation and you will see how I approach things, and then you can apply those learnings in the any tech stack that exists on internet, and you can learn any tech stack that exists today. That's why watch the full tutorial and learn from the very basics. Let's start building a to-do list application with Next.js 13 app directory. Let's go. So now I am into my computer and you can see I am on the Next.js 13, the beta version website. So here we can see all the things related to Next.js 13. So this is our app router, which is beta docs, and this is the stable, but this Next.js 13 app router is soon going to be in the stable release. Okay, so that's why I'm building a tutorial so that we can learn this new tech stack already. So this is very similar to the previous version of Next.js, but the only difference is all the server things, instead of in the API routes, now we can do all the server things inside our component, because the new components are called React server components. If you can see, this is navbar and these all are the components. So previously we have client components, now we have server components. Inside we can fetch the data from our server, so it will behave like a server. Okay, so first we will initialize our application, then we will see what to do. Okay, so we have error boundary, we have suspense, fallback. Suspense and fallback means if any error occurs inside this thing, then error boundary will handle all the error thing, and if the page is loading, that means this loading indicator will be shown, otherwise the page will be shown. That's how it works. So inside the dashboard we have layout, error, loading, settings, so all the things. So there is the main thing is page.js. The page.js thing is main, otherwise everything is good. I think this tutorial we are going to use JavaScript because I don't want to make it hard for absolute beginners who want to learn Next.js. If you are learning Next.js now, you can start with API directory as well, but for now I'm going to make this tutorial using JS. So let's open the terminal. Inside the terminal I will go to my directory where I create a folder. So inside I will say I have recently released a ChatGPT clone, that's why it is showing this. You can watch that tutorial on my channel if you haven't. And we will go to desktop, I will go to YouTube, and I will create a new Next.js application. So you can see we don't need like get server side props, get static props and all those kind of things. We can directly fetch the data simply by awaiting fetch, just as simple as it sounds. And if you want to cache the data, we can just update the header. So if you can see here, we can update this, like revalidate this page every 10 seconds. Okay, styling part we will be using Tailwind CSS, and the best part is now Tailwind CSS is default available, I think, in the Next.js, but if not, we will use. And if you want to use fonts, you can use the Next font, which is great. You can directly use Next font, and this is how you can. So the link tag is here, which is similar to previous. We have the image tag, font, script. So these all are the previous one. File convention is layout. First we have a layout, then we have a page, and we can get the data like that. We have a loading, we have error thing, head, not found, route. Okay, so if you have any API route and if you want to handle all of those routes, then you can use this thing. We have use router hook. We have to use this use client thing. Okay, edge runtime metadata. So this is the thing we can use for our metadata, which is useful for SEO. If we have dynamic pages, a lot of pages, then we have to use this generate metadata. So this is cool. So let's start building this. So first we will see how to install this. So we can say npx create next step at the latest. Okay, so I will go into my terminal. I will say pnpx create, because we are using pnpm because it is faster than yarn or npm. You can visit the pnpm website and you will see why it is fast and why we should use this. So we can say pnpx create next app at the latest, and that's all. Enter, and we will see what is your project name. So we can say to do app. Would you like to use TypeScript? So in my opinion, you should always use TypeScript in your every project, but this project is for beginners. That's why I'm not gonna use. Would you like to use ESLint with this project? Yes. Would you like to use Tailwind CSS with this product? Yes, absolutely yes. So it will configure Tailwind CSS for us. Would you like to use source directory with this product? Yes, source directory is great. So we can have all our source code into one directory, and that's good. Would you like to use experimental app directory? Yes, that's why this tutorial is being recorded at the. So this will install all of these things and it will configure for us. So you can see how cool is that. Tailwind CSS is default in the new Next.js command, so we can directly use this. So we will change into to do app. So this to do app is full stack to do app, not a simple one, not a static one. A full stack to do app which we are going to build. So we will open our terminal using code space dot, and now our terminal, or we can say our code editor is open, which is Visual Studio Code. You can install the extensions. I have published like 2 or 3 videos which extensions you should install, so you can watch those. I'm not going to focus which extensions we should use. So you can see we have source. Inside source we have our app directory. Cool. So in the app directory we can see if we want to use any API, then we can directly export these functions. So get, put, delete, or all of these methods directly, but we don't need an API route here. We are all going to use server components, the latest thing. So we can delete this thing whole. Favicon is okay. Tailwind CSS is okay. It's good. So you can see the Tailwind CSS is configured as well already. So this is our root layout, and you can see this is layout.js. It is our root layout and it will be presented in every route of for us. And this is the home page. This is the font we are using, Interfonts. You can search. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, so like this we can use the next font here. So this is given to us by default. Okay, and now if we run this application by using the command where it is in the package.json, we can see next dev. So if we open our terminal by view and open terminal, we can see here, we can say pnpm run dev. Okay, so it is saying port 3000 in use. So, okay, so I am running application already, that's why it is saying 3000. That's why it is running my application on 3001 port. Now I will open my browser and I will go to 3001 and this should load. Okay, you can see we have successfully configured our basic Next.js application and this is running. So we will remove everything for now. In the page, this is our home page. We can remove everything we don't need and we will run RAFCE. The auto completion we are getting from this extension, which is the important one. That's why I'm showing you this ES7 plus React Redux React Native snippets. This is the important extension and you can use it to make your life easier. Okay, so now we have home. I'll make another division. This is a to do list app tutorial to do. So now this is a server component. This is not a client component. The most important part is you can refresh this and you can see this loads instant. Now if you want to fetch some data, we can directly fetch the data like this const. So let's get a dummy API for now. Random person API. Yeah, random user.me. This is the API and we will use this API and I will show you how it works. So const data res is equal to await fetch. Okay, so it is complaining that we didn't make our function async, so that's why we will make it async like that, and now it will work. This is not a hook, this is not a client component, this is server component, so we don't have to use React use effect hook. We can directly fetch it. Otherwise if we do that, it will fetch this API infinitely and we will face a lot of errors. So if res dot okay, then return something. So we will return something res. Okay, so res dot data dot. Okay, so here we have a lot of things. So inside, so I think we have to await it again. So we have to const result await res.json. We have to do this once more. And now inside the result we have the data. So we will just render it as for now and we will stringify it. So JSON dot stringify result, and we will see if the res dot okay, then show this, otherwise not. So we will save this and it should work, you can see. And if we hit a refresh, this will not show a loading indicator. This will magically render the whole thing. So it's all server side, you can see, and it is super fast. You can see if we refresh this, this is not taking a single second to like refresh this. So that's the magic of Next.js 13 app directory. And we are not fetching this API again and again. If you hit refresh again, you can see it is all server. So this is the code we are running on server. Can you believe that? This is the code we are running on server. This is crazy part. Okay, you can see we are sending the whole page from the server, and here we can use any secret as well. So let's assume you have any environment variable which is a secret. So create an environment variable first, .env, and you have a super secret key here, super secret key, and this is a super secret key. We don't want to show to the world. Let's assume this can be an API key, or this can be something, a super secret key which we don't want to show to the client. So previously what we have to do is we have to create an API endpoint, then we have to fetch the data, we have to modify the data, then we have to send it to the client, we have to fetch on the client. This all work is gone. Now we can directly use this thing. You can see it is super cool. So this is a super secret key, and now we can get this key here. It will not show on client side, it will show on the, so here we can say process.env.super secret key. So let's copy this thing, and now it should not show on the client, it should show on the server. So this is our server running. Okay, and now if we go to our client, our console, and we are not seeing anything here, but we are seeing this. That's why it is so powerful to use this whole thing. So we can just run the Prisma function here and all done. Okay, we don't have to define any API endpoints, we don't have to do anything. Cool. So now we will design our, so I hope you understood what is this thing, what server components are, how Next.js 13 app directory works, and if you want to create another thing, so let's assume we have a link to another page. So import the link from next link, so another page in our app, and we will redirect it to another page. So we want to go to another page, that's how we will define it. And in the app directory we will just create a folder. We will create a folder, everything. If we want to create a new route, we have to create a folder. Inside the folder we will just create a page.js, just like it, RAFCE. You can say this is another page, and that's all. Now we have another route, and this is another server component. Okay, so this is how it works. So let's refresh this thing. Where do we have this? Okay, so we are returning this thing here, so let's return the whole thing. Now we have this another page in our application. Now what we can do, we can also give it some classes. So let's give it busy white, padding of 4, rounded Excel, just for demo purpose, so that we can see, and text black. Let's give also some margin. Okay, it is not looking good, so for that w full, padding 10, flex column, give it some margin also, my10. Now you can see this is good. And now if we click this, we are redirected back to another page, and here you can see how fast it is. Okay, I can't believe this is happening. Okay, so this is so cool. And now you can see everything works like charm. So we have understood what is server components. We have understood how to redirect a user from one page to another page. But remember that we can't use a use effect hook here, because this is all server code, and we can fetch a API, we can do that stuff, but we can't use a React hook here, I think. So if we try to use a use effect snippets, it will show, or it will throw an error. So if we import a use effect, and you can see, okay, so up here, I think it will throw a error to us, because it works on working or not. I'm not sure. Let's try. I believe it should not work, because this is a server component. You are importing a component that needs use effect. It only works in the client component, but none of its parent are marked a use client, so they are server component by default. So we can't use this here. And if you want to use something that uses use effect here, then we have to make a component, and we have to declare that component as use client component. So we have to go here, and we have to make like use client, and then we can do all the stuff, but then we don't have the privilege to use this thing. So you can either fetch data, you can do the server thing, or you can use all the hooks that are provided by React before. So you can just remove this thing. You should also remove the whole thing here, and now it should work. Okay, that's what I told you. And now this is super cool. Now we build a to-do list API, and now let's find a beautiful UI so that we can copy that from the internet. So to-do list app inspiration. So on the dribble we should get something. Okay, and we will copy that thing, because I always want to make our application which we are building to look decent enough, not extraordinary beautifully designed, but it should be decent. How about we design it on for the mobile, or you can build that for your laptop or your computer. I think this is good. Yeah. So what I will do, I will take this whole thing, I will go here and I will make it smaller. We will design it for our mobile, and first we need to configure our Prisma. Now we will head over to the Prisma website and we will see how to configure the Prisma for its good, so that you can see side by side how it looks. We don't have to navigate through the pages every time. So what I will do, I will remove everything for now. We don't need this. Save this. You can see everything is fast reloading, and now we will set up our Prisma and our database so that we can save something in the database. So Prisma setup, Next.js 13. We will visit the Prisma website and we will see how to use this thing. Yeah, Prisma is good for TypeScript. Prisma is good for TypeScripts. That's why we should make our project into TypeScript. Otherwise, there is no point to use a beautiful thing like Prisma. It is bad if we don't use TypeScript. But let's skip for now. Okay, start Prisma from scratch. Here we can see this asks us to do a lot of things, and this is a TypeScript ORM by default. You can see JavaScript. So we just need to npm install Prisma and this will do the work. So what we need to do is npx Prisma init. First we have to install this as a dev dependencies in our application. So what we will do, we will open new terminal, npm install Prisma, save dev, and now if you go into the package.json, you can see this Prisma dependency is on our dev dependency. Nice and easy. And now what we can do, we can npx, we can initialize it, npx Prisma init. Yeah, now it worked. So it has created a Prisma schema for us, you can see, and we have a PostgreSQL database, we have a URL, and which is the best place to get a PostgreSQL database URL, which you can get from anywhere. You can install your local Postgres thing, or you can install anything. So first we will configure our database URL inside our env. So you can see we have our Postgres URL, which is by default, and you can get it from any provider. You can get it from railway.app. You can get it from Supabase. We will get it from Supabase because it's easy. Just sign up for a free account. You can also do it here. You can provision a Postgres just for quickly. You can do it in both ways. Okay, so for now we will use this thing. So new project, and I will say to do app Next.js 13. Copy the password. I will choose a region near me. Create a new project. Remember to copy the database password. I will copy the URL. Let's wait for some time. Now we can see that our database is now configured properly, and we can copy our database URL from here. So this is our connection string. I will copy this and I will paste it into my env file here. But for the password part, you can go here and you can reset your password. So I will reset my password. I will copy it and then I will use it here. So I will hide this because I don't wanna make this public. This is a secret variable, and you should also put it securely inside your .env file. Now we have our database URL, and now we can access it. Okay, and now we will define our models here. So we can say model to-dos, and it has a ID, which is a string basically, and it is, we can say it is a ID, and it is a, I think we can make it default and CUID. Yeah, just like it. And as well, the to-do has a item inside it, so we can make it a text like it. The to-do has a text or a content. The to-do, it is also a string. It can't be null. If it can be null, then you can make it as a question mark, then it is null, and now it will work perfect. And you can make it db.text like it. So we have a to-do, we have content, and we have an ID for it. Otherwise, you can also define a model of author, and you can connect it to it so that a user can have many to do. So it will be a one-to-many relationship, but here we can go ahead with it because it is just a simple application and we want to make it simple. So here we have defined everything. Now what we will do, we will push it pnpx Prisma. We will sync our schema file with our database so that we can see all the tables here. Now you can see there is no table, but if we do pnpx Prisma db push, so it will sync our database with our schema file, this one. So now you can see it will first generate the Prisma schema for our local, and your database is now in sync. So if you hit refresh, you can see we have a to-dos table, and this table is publicly readable and writable, and we can forget about it because we are not using Supabase related SDK. We will use a database URL just like any other database. We are just using Supabase as a database provider. Now we have our to-dos. Here we can come and here we can generate Prisma generate, and it should generate, and it will load a schema, and it will generate our Prisma schema for us. Okay, so it is throwing us an error. So we will go to our Prisma website, and here we will see Prisma in it. Yeah, it's good. Connect your database. Now we can connect. Yeah, good. Prisma migrate. So we don't need to use this. Now we need to install our Prisma client. I thought it is already installed, but it's not. So we have to manually install it. So what we can do, we can come here and we can see npm install Prisma client. What is Prisma? Prisma is an ORM, which means it's a useful library which we can utilize to interact with our database easily, so that we don't have to write manual SQL queries. We can leverage this Prisma library which is already there, and we can utilize this. So first of all, we have to connect our Prisma. So for that, what we can do, every time the app is running, we should connect to our database. So I think we can, if there is any Prisma thing, no. So what I want to do is, when we initialize our application, it should automatically connect to our database. So this is how we can use our Prisma. But for now, I think Prisma and Next.js 13 app directly. So what I am searching a best way to connect like this thing, Prisma. So like you can see that to do here, and we have this thing. So I think we can directly use this. Okay, so we are running this main function, and then we are closing it, and they are seeding it. Okay, link Prisma next. You can see we can directly fetch the to-dos like that. Yeah, and request method in the pages. Okay, cool. So now we will use our Prisma which we have installed. So create into the source directory. We will create another file, another folder. We can say utils. Inside it, we will create a prisma.ts. So what we will do, we will import the Prisma client from Prisma, just like it. Okay, so what is happening is we are using JavaScript. That's why we should use the JS thing here. Now it is good. So import the Prisma from Prisma client and create a new Prisma and just export Prisma. Now we are creating a new Prisma client, and we can just export default Prisma. Yeah, it's good. So now we have Prisma inside our application, and here we can fetch using Prisma directly. So we can say to-dos is equal to Prisma, import it from utils dot. You can see we don't have any auto completion, and that's why I don't want to use JavaScript, because if we are not using TypeScript, then there is no auto completion, and without auto completion it sucks writing code. In the schema Prisma we have to-dos dot. Okay, so I hate this, so I will turn this project into TypeScript. Okay, so what about we create a new project, new whole project instead of this. So I can close this thing, and let's install the full new application, because without TypeScript there is no point of writing the whole thing by yourself. You will lose a lot of productivity, and you will face a lot of errors while building the application. That's why what I will do is, I will close this whole thing. I will close this also. I will install the new thing, new pnpx create next app @latest to do app TypeScript. Yeah, I want to use TypeScript. Yes. Would you like to use @/stuff? This is a import alias, so we don't have to use // like syntax, and it is annoying. It is better. Now we have installed everything. It is good to change directory to do app TypeScript. Open the folder. What we will do, we will initialize our Prisma. I will say pnpx prisma init. It doesn't work sometimes. Prisma init. Yeah, it is working. So now we have our Prisma. I will put my database URL again in the env file here. You can see I will put my env variable here. Now I have my database URL is configured in the env, and I can get started with it. So first of all, we will define our schema of to-dos. So now we are using TypeScript. In the source directory API, we can remove this whole thing. We don't need this. We only need this page, and we can also remove this whole thing. Home, just like it. Save this thing. Here we can say to-dos, model to-dos, not to-dos, model to-dos, and it has ID. ID is string @default CUID, and it has content which is also a string. And save this thing. Why it is complaining? Yeah, because it should be unique. The ID should be unique. Yeah, now you can see TypeScript helps us to reduce the error, and that's why you should always use TypeScript. Now clear everything. pnpx prisma db push. So it will sync our database, which is our database is already in sync. You can see ID on period. Yeah, now we should install the Prisma client Also it is installed, and we should create a utils folder inside our source directory, and inside it we can create a prisma.ts. We can import prisma client here. Okay, prisma client, it is saying not export not export member from here. Okay, why is that? Const prisma is equal to new prisma client should be here. Okay, so it is not. So let's look at the prisma docs, how it is being defined. Okay, so connect your database. You can say this should work, but somehow it is showing us an error, and we will figure that part out. It may be because we can reload our whole window and then it can work. Now we have our Prisma client. Before, our Prisma client was not generated. That's why we were facing the problem. Now our Prisma client is there, and now if we refresh our window, it should be there. Now you can see our Prisma client is here, and it should show us the auto completion. Yeah, and now we can export Prisma. Okay, so now we have our Prisma inside our whole application. So we will go into our main page, and here we should fetch all the to-dos. So we can directly come here and we can say to-dos is equal to await, and to use await we have to use async, and we can see prisma import from, and you can see we have now to-dos dot find many, and now we can render them. So here we can say json dot stringify the to-dos for, and now we will run our application. pnpm run dev localhost 3000. Now it will take some time on the first load, but when it fetches everything, it is showing that we don't have any to-dos for now. But if we go to our Supabase editor, here we can go into our to-dos application or our to-dos table, and here we can insert a new row, and here we can see something new. We can save this whole thing, and now if we hit refresh, you can see the data is being rendered over here, and you can see it is just this much easier to fetch the data and showing on the client. We are not using any API, we are not rendering things, we are not using any hooks. It is directly coming from the database, and we are rendering things over here. Now we need to do some things. We need to first make a UI part, then we will make a form. When we submit the form, to-do will be saved to our database, and then it will be rendered to our client. And this is what we are going to do now. So first we will design our whole application. So we can say w full, h full. Here we can say h1 to-do list app with Next.js 13 app directory, and here we will render over all to do. So we will make it flex column. We will give every children a space of something, a space 4, and I think we should make it center. And as for now, we will just render the fake to-dos. Let's say we have 4 to-dos, and we will map through them, and we will render everything. So it is undefined for now, and we will render. This is to-do number like this, and we should design it somehow. We can give it busy white, text gray, and what we can also do is, let's give it 600. Font light should be fine. Rounded x p4, and it is good to go. Save this thing. Now you can see this looks cool. We can make the whole app center by giving it flex, or by just mx auto. No, mx auto only works if we have given it a fixed width, and we can give it justify center, item center, so it is in the centered, and we can make it flex column. Okay, and now we can give it some padding of y of, let's say 10. Give it something, text 4xl, font light, text good, everything is good. Just some margin of y of 5. You can see every time we save this refresh our whole page. We can make it smaller because we are working on mobile. When you work on your PC or bigger screen, you can do the whole thing. Also give it with full, and we will give it with full as well. Now you can see this is being rendered as a whole, but we can give it some padding of x, also 10, and instead of giving px and py 10, what we can do p10. It should be lg as well. Text, this should be base. Yeah, so I want to render it on a single. So this is how we will render all our children, or we can say all our to-dos. And now here we will make a form. Here we can make another division. We can make an input with, so you can say input with text to do, and a placeholder submit a to do, just like it. Instead of division, we can say it is a form. On submit, it gives us an event, and we can say event.prevent default for now, so that it will not refresh the whole page. And here we can define our button, save to do, just like it. And we should give it some classes so it looks good. We can give it padding of 4, text of gray, rounded should be Excel, outline is null or none. Save this thing. Okay, so it is saying that event handler cannot be passed to client props. If you need interactive, consider converting part of this to a client component. Okay, so we can't do this. Okay, how about log? Can't we do this? Okay, so it is saying we can't. Yes, now we can do. So we can't make it a form, so let's make it a division just for. So this is our input field. As you can see, this is looking good. px4 py2, now it is good. We can make our button as well. So we can make, when our button is active, scale it down to 90. Transition transform, give it padding also, px of 4 py of 2. We can, yeah, that should do the work. And we can wrap this whole thing inside a w full flex item center space x2. We can say don't break the words. So for that, what we can do, we can say it no wrap flex. Now white is space no wrap. Now it will not break over. Now it is good. And give it bg of white and text of black and make it rounded. Now you can see our button is looking cool. You can see, and we can submit a to do. When we hit enter, it should show our to do here. Okay, so I think we should go ahead with this. So when we click on this button, save to do. Oh yeah, so the problem is how should we handle our state here. As you know, we can't use the use state hook here. Okay, so we can't use the use state hook here. If we use that, it will throw us an error. So if we try to content, set content, empty string, if we import this thing, it will throw us an error that you are importing a component that needs set state. It works in a client component. So this is a problem we are facing. So how should we submit something? For that, we can define a component which is a client component. So here we can cut this thing. This is our app inside the source. Let's make another components directory. Here we can say to do submit form.tsx rafce submit to do submit form, just like it. And here we can paste our whole data. And now we can use our own submit thing without any. So we can say event.prevent default. And now here we can define our function as well. And we don't have to manually do this on click thing. We can say this button is the type of submit, and this is a client component. And to identify that this component is a client component, we have to use client here, so that Next.js knows that this is a client component. Save to do. We will save this thing and we will import here. We will import this whole thing, and now it should work. You can see now it will work. Cool. So here we can use state. This is a client component similar to a component which we were using before in the React or Next. And here we can define our content, and it is a text. Import the use state thing. Whenever we change this input on change, set the content to event.target.value, and here we are good to go. Now we have the content thing, and here we can also say that this has a value of content. And when we submit this thing, this should do something here. Cool. So now here we can console.log this whole thing. As for now, we can console.log the content, but what we want to do, we want to save this whole thing to the database. So this is our to do. Open the console, and I will make this into another window. And here if we save to do, and you can see we are seeing this to do here, but we want to save this in our database. So can we do this directly in the server component? So let's search, or let's see the documentation. So the data fetching part is done. What we are interested in, so here you can see we are setting the count, and this is a use client. So this is our server, this is our client. Fetch data on click. You can see the difference between those components, access back and resources directly. So here we want to save something, and I am searching anything we can do. Okay, so we can't import a server component inside client. You can visit the documentation, you can search, and you can do all the things here. So we are interested in mutating the data. Okay, so here you can see mutating. Mutating means creating or updating the data. So here we are sending the API request, and we are getting the to-dos, and then we are mapping the to-dos here. But what we want to save this to-do. So it is, again, this is a client component, this is a server component, this is a client component. After data, you can use router.refresh to refresh, fetch updated data, and re-render on the server. Router.refresh. So we will use this whenever we do some mutation. So now we have to use the API here. I think. Otherwise, we don't have any option. So the main part of server component is to just fetch the data and just show the data. This is not about mutating the data. I thought we can mutate something here, but no. So now what we want to do, we want to save this data into our database, and this is not a server component, so we can't directly call or prisma.to2.create something like that. So what we need to do, we need to build an API endpoint here. So for that, go to the API routes here, and here we can see route handlers. So inside the route handlers, what we will find a post route. So this is, you can see, this is our post route. Route handlers allow you to create custom request handler for a given route using web request and response API. Okay, so this is similar to the pages API routes, and this is what we need here. So inside the app API route.ts, so we have previously deleted that folder. So inside app we have API, and inside it we have route.ts, and here we can define our HTTP methods. So this is our get request and this is our post request. So we will do this. Similarly, the post method will cause the route handler to be evaluated dynamically. So we can do products, API route, everything you can find here, but we will just use this post requests for now. Inside app we have items. So this is the example items route. So inside app, inside the API, or instead of API, we can name it whatever we want. So we can name it to do's. Instead of to do, we can name it to do, and then route.ts. And we can also make it something like to do slash create. Then it will be like to do slash create. Okay. The route file will handle our request, and every folder will be behave like the path to our request. So list item, so you can see in the list item we have route.ts, and we can now send a request to list item and it will behave like a API call. So just like it. So to do's, inside we can create a create, and inside we have a route.ts. So here we can create to do's, create, get, or something like that. But for get, we can directly call this here, and for submit we can define this. Paste the whole thing here. So we are not doing anything, we can just get the data from our, so when this post request, so we will also get the next request here, and inside here we should get something. So I don't know what is this, but it should be some related to context. Next, so there should be some example. Okay, so we can see the request is, yeah, so we can directly do like this. And now we have const data is equal to request dot body. Okay, so we have request dot body, and here we have data. Cannot declare a block. Okay, so we are console dot log data. So we don't need this thing. So we will just log the data and we will return success is true. So now if we call this API inside our front end, so here we can define a function submit or save to do is equal to async. This is a async function which will call our API. So I always like using Axios. Okay, so I don't like fetch, so we will install the Axios library, npm install Axios. It saves one line of code always. Okay, so we can now call our Axios lib. Const, we should always use try catch when we do some API thing, because it may fail. And now we have data, and we can call our API Axios import Axios from Axios dot post, and now we will call our API, so which is to do slash create, and here we will pass our data. So we can say content is content. So instead of doing this thing here, we can directly do this. So this is our to do content, and now we will log our data dot data. Instead of data, we can say res, so response dot data. And if we got any error, we can say console.error. We can save this, and whenever we hit submit, so we can call this whole thing save to do, save this whole thing. Now let's see over, this is our to do, save to do, and now you can see request failed with state code 500, and we will see what happened. Compile to do's create route. Okay, so we have did a mistake. So as you can see here, we have to wrap this whole thing into next response.json. So what we need to do is next response.json. So you can see we have a lot of things here. JSON next redirect. So we can just do like this. So now if we try to make a post request, you can see we are getting the data, and here we should be able to see the data here which we have sent to this. So this is test. Save this thing. Readable stream logged false. Okay, so what is this data dot? Okay, so we just need the request body here. So how should we get that requested form data JSON? So what we what I will do is I will console.log the whole request and we will see what is this. Okay, so let's see the data we are getting. We are getting IP, geo, cool. We only need the data we sent. Okay, so stream request dot body dot get reader. Now let's read the data. I think what it will give us, I don't know. Okay, what it has given to. No, we don't need this. I'm not sure how this works, but let's visit the documentation and see how what is this and how this. Okay, so here you can see how do we get the request body. So here you have to request the JSON and then we can see our thing here. So instead of this we can see our JSON and we have to await for this. So what we need to do is data is request to JSON and we have to await, and now we can log the console. So whatever we are sending this it is text save to do, and now you can see we have a content text which we are sending over here. Okay, so you can read the documentation to find out the answer you need. Cool. Now we just need to save this whole thing into our database, and it is an object, it is a content, and it is a string. So now we have data.content just like it. And what we need to do is we need to just save it into our database. So we can import the Prisma, we can say todos.create, and here we can say data is content, and which we are getting from here, data.content. And here if we don't have any data, so if we here we can say if data dot content it can be empty, it's not defined, or data dot content is equal to empty string, then return next response dot json, and here we can say success is false. And I think we can also change the status to 400. It will work or not, I don't know. Let's see the documentation how we can send a correct status code to the client. Okay, so here we can see headers and we can send the headers like this. So we can import the headers. Okay, here I believe, yeah, I thought we can do like this, but no, headers dot set, no, we can't do like this. So we have to import the headers here, and now we can do all the things. Return new response. So okay, so we don't need header, we can just return new response, and here we can say this is our response, and here we can specify all the things. So we can say the status is 200 here, and here it is complaining that it is a body which can be anything. Yeah, it can be anything. Okay, so it is saying it's not assignable to type body init our form data. Okay, so how about just a string? Yeah, it can be just a string. Status is 200, and here we can do the same thing. Here we can say failed, and here we can say the request status 400, which means there is something wrong. So now if we try to send an empty string and hit save to do, and now we should get a 400 bad request. Cool. In the network tab you can clear everything, save to do, and you can see we have a 400 bad request here. And once we hit a valid to do, hi there, and we hit save, and it will work. It is saving our data inside our database, and we are getting a 200, but we need a JSON response. So how we can give it a JSON response? So I think what we can do is json.stringify about it. Hi there something. We only want to see the fetch. Hi there, and you can see we are getting success to JSON response. That's what we want, the JSON response. Okay, and now if you see our database, you should see 3 to-dos here. Cool. And now we just need to fetch those to-dos, and we need to render here, and which we are already doing. What we need to do is to-do dot map, and here we will get a to-do, and instead of this we can say to-do dot id, and here we can say to-do dot content. Save this whole thing, and you can see we have our to-dos here. Let's make it bigger. Yeah, now we will refresh this whole thing. You can see how fast it is. So this is our new to-do. We will hit enter, but we are not seeing that the UI is updating just after we have saved. Something is here. We will hit enter, but it is taking some time. So what we can do, we can hit a router.refresh, and it will fetch again. So we can go to do submit form. We can import our router from use router, and what we can do is we can refresh our router after we have submitted this thing. So we can do router.refresh. Okay, so where is refresh? Okay, so from the next navigation. So this is a different kind of router which we are getting. Previously we are importing from next router. Now we are importing from next navigation dot. You can see we have to just refresh the whole thing, and we can await this, save this whole thing, and it will work like job. So this should work. Hit enter. Now you can see the UI is updating on the flow, but we need to also do one thing. We can reset our state when we have successfully fetched everything. So set content to empty string. This is another to do. Hit enter. Now you can see cool. Awesome. So that's how we have created our application. So in this video, we have learned how to use Next.js 13, and you can see I haven't prepared anything before this video, before this tutorial, and I have created the whole app using the documentation and how I approached a lot of things. So that's how you can approach building a web apps, and you can do it too. And let me know what you want in the next tutorial, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Check out my other courses on clubofcoders.com. You can find a link in the description. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching this video. Please share, like, and subscribe. Thank you.